You can listen to The Professional Left wherever you get your podcasts, on Netroots Radio, or at our website, proleftpod.com, where you can also contribute to this podcast. There's a PayPal button at our website, or you can mail us a letter and or contribution at P.O. Box 9133, Springfield, Illinois, 62791.
This is the podcast for October 14th, 2022. It's not safe for work.
Recorded live from the Cornfield Resistance, where we're back from a trip through the American heartland and are returning to our regularly scheduled Not Safe for Work podcasting. It's The Professional Left with Driftglass and Blue Gal.
Thank you for such a nice vacation, Driftglass.
Oh, it was a fun vacation. I had a wonderful time.
Yeah, and this was a very modest vacation. We just drove out. Took a couple days to drive out to Colorado.
Yep.
Surprise your brother.
Yes, and he was surprised.
He was surprised that everyone was there for his birthday.
Oh, no, he just got paroled, and we were all very, very proud of him.
No, that wasn't it.
It was his birthday, and his sneaky wife arranged did all the logistics, so both my brother and sister showed up unexpectedly.
Yes, his brother and sister, his brother being you, and then one of his daughters showed up for the birthday as she would, and that was supposed to sort of take the edge off of any surprise, throw him off the scent. And then the other daughter and her husband were supposed to be in Michigan, right? And had all kinds of things on Facebook. We're going to Michigan. We'll be in Michigan, blah, blah, blah.
There was a great deal of false, misleading propaganda generated on social media.
So he would be surprised. And he was very surprised. And we had a wonderful time.
We did. And it was very relaxing. It was road trip with book on tape. Just me and my wife having a wonderful time, relaxing. And she is such good company. And I just getting out on the road, seeing Merca. And, we drove through some provocative states. We drove through Western Illinois and Missouri and Kansas and Colorado, Eastern Colorado.
You said in our notes, signs of hope and hints of doom.
Yes, that was exactly
explain
it.
That. Explain what you mean by that.
Well, we went through real America, where there were just block after block of Washington Post and New York Times people crowded around diners, interviewing Trump voters. No, we went through all those states and back again, and we saw lots of Let's Go Brandon bumper stickers.
Yes, we did.
And we saw MAGA hats, and we saw gun show signs with AR-15 outlines. And one of Kansas, very primitive rest stops compared to Illinois' highly advanced rest stops. I spotted an old guy in busted out jeans and a sleeveless t-shirt and an American flag bandana, all of which have been laundered 1,000 times or 1,000,000 times, sporting a very large and shiny handgun and an ammo belt out in the middle of nowhere.
Right, at the rest stop.
At the rest stop. Just
was shocking to us. That was shocking to us.
It's open carry, and people around there do carry guns around, and it's always a shock to those of us who don't believe in people toting around weapons in public. That they just, it's just to that. But this was in the middle of nowhere. With his wife in their pickup truck, going to the bathroom at a rest stop. And it's like, so you weren't in your car, and you're going to go back home. But his apparel was Trump-loving guy. And that was pretty common. These MAGA hats and the guns and the bumper stickers, well, not the bumper sticker so much, but the MAGA hats and guns and those sorts of things are all the things that these ordinary people in the middle of this big empty place, they get up in the morning and choose what to wear to announce to the world who they are, to a world that pays no attention to them, doesn't care what they're saying or doing. But they feel the urgent need to walk around in public declaring, I'm a MAGA asshole, and in some cases I'm armed, and sort of daring people to talk to them. This is just their normal apparel, and they don't see anything wrong with it. They're perfectly comfortable with it. And that was the milieu in which we traveled. And we saw lots of signs of economic activity and social activity. And I know you want to talk a little bit about that. Yeah,
well, everybody's hiring. Yeah. Every time we stopped for coffee or a bathroom stop, everybody's hiring. And we went to King Soopers grocery store in Longmont, Colorado, and also a Dillon's grocery store in Manhattan, Kansas, in the middle of the week. There was one checkout open, being operated by a human being, and the rest were automated.
Yep. But the people who were operating the cash register were special needs people.
Yeah, that was nice. That was really nice to see.
Yeah.
The employees, they had clearly had made an effort to hire special needs people to do work, and everyone was just pleasant and employed and talking about the weather. And
and the woman in front of us in line at the cashier,
who I will never forget.
No,
I will never forget her as long as I live.
She was amazing. She was clearly a social worker, and it was the middle of a work day, and she had a group of special needs people. It looked like all ages that were in her charge.
They were all out of high school, though. They were all adults. Yeah.
But she was shuttling them through, and she was buying lots of groceries on 3 different credit cards because she had 3 different funding sources, I'm guessing. But it was just chatting up the cashier. I've got to stop here. And it was, could you put this one on this card and this bunch on this card? And then I have to go back to another work site to pick up some more people. And you just know this is what she does every day. This is her whole job every day, is caring for these people and looking out for them and getting them where they need to be. And we were both just, remarking to ourselves, those are the people that don't show up in the diner interviews.
Right.
Those are the people that keep civilization running.
I was going to say, she carries a large chunk of what matters on her shoulders. More than a lot of people.
She does.
She carries what matters on her shoulders.
And every functional, healthy community has those people. We know lots of those people. The people who are always volunteering for everything, or the people who are deeply committed to 1 or 2 organizations and just pour their soul into it. But for those people, those organizations would collapse.
Right.
Because it requires their energy and time and expertise and focus and years of experience to carry it off. And that's the social capital that really does.
And it's mostly women. It's mostly women. Yeah.
That's what keeps the country running.
Now, you want to talk about watching the TV at the hotel at breakfast, right?
I watch the TV at breakfast, and my wife has certain writing she does during the day and other stuff she does during the day. And I watch local news. And the local news in all these places is studiously non-political. In fact, the lead story, and I have it in my hand, above the fold of the October 7th edition of the Eastern Colorado News, full headline, the whole upper half of the paper and below the fold, Loose Moose wanders into Strasbourg. Because a story about a moose that wandered into a town. And that's the lead story in this newspaper. And the paper is full of very, very local stories about the Comfort Inn Highway extension, how it narrowly passed in city council. That must have been a grim day of political fighting. And how well the Hemp Hill Middle School Choir did when they and 4 other schools, unnamed, I assume, because they're competitors, performed the Star Spangled Banner at the Colorado Rockies game, which I'm sure was a big deal for everyone involved and good for them. Local TV is like that too, but with weather and traffic accidents. The ads, however, all the ads, being this is a political year and elections are approaching, the ads are very political, and they reflect the campaign season as it is.
Yeah. When we were driving through Missouri and Kansas, and between cities, it's very rural along the highway.
Yes.
And there were a lot of signs, and nearly all of them were for Republican goons like Chris Kobach and Derek Schmidt. And Derek Schmidt, who's now playing the race card hard. There was an ample, huge roadside ad for Trump 2024 that was made out of wood that someone had built. But the highway was also haunted by a lot of, in Kansas, vote no on 2, which is the abortion amendment sign left over from August that had not been taken down. That was the amendment that Republicans rigged up to be voted on in a Republican primary day that they thought would sail through, but got stomped. And this was the thing about Kansas.
Yeah.
Being in Kansas and staying in Kansas during our drive, we did get a chance to see local TV ads and Democratic ads. And Democratic ads are continually reminding you about Sam Brownback and he destroyed the economy of Kansas. He destroyed the public school system, damaged the public school system. There were plain folks ads with teachers saying, remember Sam Brownback? Well, all of these Republican candidates, X, Y, and Z, all backed Sam Brownback. And you must never forget what Sam Brownback did to Kansas. And this candidate was behind him 100%. Mm-hmm. This candidate thinks he's terrific. And just hanging Sam Brownback around the necks of every Republican running. There was even one ad where it was Thelma and Louise and this car just going over a cliff in order to hammer it home. Remember what Sam Brownback did to Kansas? Boom! Yeah. Here comes this car over the cliff. And, candidate A, candidate B, they loved it. They supported it. And they think Sam Brownback did a great thing for Kansas. Mm-hmm. If you disagree, you should be voting for my candidate.
Oh, yeah. And just plain folks teacher, American just like you. I will never forgive Sam Brownback for what he did to Kansas. And I will never forget, that he's to blame. And I'll never forget that this asshole over here thought it was a great idea. And now he's running for public office, or now she's running for attorney general. And it really is. Politics are still pretty local.
Yeah.
And Trump isn't on the ballot, but that kind of Republican assholery that everything they touch, they just destroy. That's on the ballot. And these people are not screwing around. I didn't see a single abortion ad in Kansas. I'm sure they're out there. I mean, I'm not a professional, but I'm a gifted amateur. But they were all about Sam Brownback, hanging him around their neck like a dead possum. Just this is the guy. They love this guy. Remember how screwed up he was? Remember how he destroyed our state? Well, this asshole thinks that's just great. I don't, and I'm an American just like you. And damn. We also went to Bastions of Civilization. We went to Lawrence, Kansas, where the end of the world was set in the TV movie the day after. It looked just fine to me. No harm or damage done. We also went around to places that I happened to be listening on the radio to, old-timey radio of Gunsmoke, which take place in Dodge City, and they go up to Saline, they go to Hayes for hangings, and that's where we were as we were driving through those places in Kansas. So it's the eastern part of Kansas is all forested and lovely, but man, you get out in the middle of it, and it's just flat and dry and brown and endless. So it's
in eastern Colorado too. That whole area until you get to the mountains, it's really flat.
I'm sure Junior Dude believes that eastern Colorado and western Kansas should be one state because it looks like one thing. He has all kinds of
strong opinions about geography. Yes,
but we cruised into Lawrence, Kansas. We went off the highway. And it was a delightful bastion of civilization.
That's a university town. So
it is.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah. But it's clearly an old town. You could see sort of the old towns under the new towns.
Yep.
A cool, funky downtown with rainbow flags and same-sex couples walking hand in hand, coexisting very comfortably with the older residents who are just out for coffee or shopping around. But Lawrence,
a lot of brew pubs, a lot of
really cool vintage places. You would love it. It's a great, cool downtown.
Yeah, Lawrence, Kansas. I'd like to go back there and visit and hang out some more.
Well, and it was bustling in the middle of the day, in the middle of a weekday, which is always a good sign. But it also has a mighty yarn store, which is why we went there in the first place. It has the famous
yarn barn in Lawrence, Kansas, which I had to make a pilgrimage.
You did.
To see. Yarn barn is one of the earliest yarn stores to make a big deal out of mail order and to have a newsletter and to expand their business beyond the front door of their store. So lots and lots of knitters across the country know Yarn Barn because they make it easy to order. And so of course, your sister told me because we went to Longmont Yarn Shop in Colorado together. Your sister and I are both knitters. Yes. And she said, well, you're driving right by Lawrence. Are you going to go to Yarn Barn? And my eyebrows went up and I went, oh, I am? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to spend a little time in there. And, Driftglass, I have a yarn inventory here at Casa DGBG. So
impressive, very impressive.
Impressive yarn inventory. So because everybody sends me yarn.
Our home is basically a yarn store without a staff or a front office. But yeah.
I give away a lot of yarn. And I do a lot of knitting. So
you do. My sister, by the way, was thrilled.
My point is I didn't buy a lot, right? Oh, yeah. Right. I gave away yarn to your sister. That's right. Yes. I brought a bag of yarn for your sister.
Please take it.
Take it. And anyway, so there was that side trip. It was fun to visit and get inspired by the different patterns and different yarns that were there. And I always pick up what I do if I go to a yarn store is pick up a ball of sock yarn because that's not too expensive. And it shows the store that I know you're in business. I know you're there to make money. And I walk in, I want to get something to show that I appreciate that you're in business. And I didn't just walk in the door and walk out.
You're not a looky-loo.
I'm not a looky-loo. Right. Mm-hmm. So in both cases, I got sock yarn. And the sock yarn I got at Yarn Barn is from a line called Parks and Rec, because I thought Driftglass would think that was funny.
I do. And you said there were like a bunch of looms in there lined up.
Oh, Yarn Barn is not just a knitting store. Right. It's weaving. They had like 18 looms set up in the store. And they teach weaving. And then they had spinning wheels also. I didn't see a lot of fleece. I saw a lot of weaving cotton and weaving wool for weave that was specifically on cones for weaving. But I didn't see a lot of spinning fiber. They had some, but not as much. And then they have high-end knitting yarn. So anyway, I had fun.
I did too.
And Driftglass was very nice to stay in the car and just wait patiently for me while
just hung out.
Tasted the joint.
I did a little walk around the block. I sort of gave the place, because I'm always looking to steal good ideas for Springfield. And I stole a couple of them from Lawrence, Kansas. Number one, relocate your city to a university area. Okay, that's probably not going to happen.
Well, we have UIS. We do have universities here, but they put them out in cornfields instead of bringing them downtown, which is a mistake. Yeah,
that's the problem.
Yeah.
And we passed through the hometown of Bob Dole and the birthplace of Dwight David Eisenhower, and the first section of the American interstate highway system is right here, and past Leavenworth and forts and big military bases, just stuff you don't see in sort of Springfield.
Yeah.
And it was an educational trip. And when we came into Colorado on the south end, and so we had to drive north to get to Boulder. But the minute we cleared a few hills and the Flatirons showed up, that's home to me. That's one of the places I always visited in my childhood. My grandparents lived there. I recognized all the landmarks, this rarefied atmosphere. Literally, you start noticing your ears starting to pop, and you realize you've gone up 5,000 feet without noticing it. Mm-hmm. And just a wonderful time, and kind of dreamlike. And I just had a wonderful, wonderful vacation with my wife, then turned around, came home. But we did follow the news. We didn't do a news blackout. We just sort of peeked in, saw that, like, for example, the Herschel Walker train wreck on cable TV. That is not being covered in local news, I promise you. But it is on cable news. But we mostly greeted it with, at least I did, with shrugs, which is, of course, the Georgia GOP nominated this violent, deluded, lying meathead. And of course, he'll get lots of votes. You can pile on all the horrifying details of all the terrible, hypocritical, lying, deluded, gibberish shit that comes out of this asshole's mouth. And Republican voters will still tromp to the polls and vote for him. Because Republicans, remember,
the institution of the conservative media will continue to back him up.
Just pretend. And Republicans are horrible people, and they will continue to vote for horrible people. And
there's no the other part of that I don't want to miss is that there is no principle involved when it comes to abortion or anything else.
Oh, there is. I mean,
Dana Lash.
That's it. That's the only principle. She gave it away, which is, I want control of Congress. I want control of the Senate. I want power.
I don't
give a shit about abortion or anything else. I don't care about any of this stuff. I don't care if they're liars. I want control of the levers of government. And whatever it takes to get that is what I will do. And right down to the grassroots. Republicans have become, just as we have described them before, reprogrammable meatbags. None of this affects them. None of this changes their mind. If anything, they just dig in deeper, and anyone still deluding themselves that the fever will break or will turn a corner, or this isn't a long twilight struggle to sort of push these people the fuck out of the public square and back to the sewers where they belong, and it's going to take a long time to do, is kidding yourself. The next election is important, but the one after that's important, and the one after that'll be important. And for the rest of your life, this is the way it's going to be. It's a fight worth having, but damn, imagine how much of this could have been avoided if people who warned the GOP was headed this way decades ago and for decades had bothered to be listened to as opposed to be stifled.
Yeah. Well, and people who have authority and power and a platform had said, don't, instead of look how much money we're making off this guy. And don't vote for Trump as a joke.
Well, don't vote for Trump. Don't vote to reelect Bush.
Yeah.
Right. This goes, and the 1-2 punch of this whole disaster has always been not just the people who vote for Trump and still think he's a golden god and who've been horrible people for decades. The 1-2 punch is always the people who preach both sides do it.
Right.
And because that's the force that drags down the guardrail and makes it okay to do anything you want. Because no matter what horrible thing your Republican friends did this week, in their tiny, smushy little brains, they're justifying it because they believe liberals are worse. There's an enormous amount of money and power to be gained by convincing them that however depraved Herschel Walker is, some liberal out there is worse. All liberals are worse. Yeah. And there's no coming back from that. There's no walking back to civilization from that.
And we have to start thinking about our No Fair Remembering Stuff show.
Right.
And whether it's already so obvious to everyone that Newt Gingrich is a part of this. The noun and the verb blame Democrats largely started with him. And then also the Southern strategy.
Which has been the most successful strategy in history.
Yeah.
Well, and I was considering notes for our other show, our which we're still in the testing phase. We're still taking it out to the launch pad and watching it go up in the air and seeing if it'll land again.
And thank you to everyone for all your feedback on that as well.
Oh yeah, it's been wonderful.
We read everything and we're taking it under advisement and consideration, definitely.
But this week, because I do a little bit of research and go back through archives and look the way things were. A decade ago this week, do you know what David Brooks was all exercised about?
I can't imagine. It must have something to do with the Democratic Party, though.
The vice presidential debates between Joseph Robinette Biden and Paul Ryan. And he was furious that Joe Biden was smirking and interrupting and being such a rude person. He was being so rude. And you know what he said? Independents hate that. Independents just hate that. This is why Democrats aren't getting independent support, because of this sort of thing. Independents just hate that kind of thing. It was October 15th, 2012.
And what Joe Biden was laughing about was Social Security and Medicare. And looking at Paul Ryan saying, I'm a numbers guy. I'm a math guy. I'm a budget guy. I know all these things. And Joe Biden saying, come on.
Come on, man.
Come on, man. You know who created Social Security and Medicare. And you know who in the last administration who tried to privatize it.
Yes.
Who went around, your party wants to privatize Medicare. You want to convert Medicare into a voucher system and hand senior citizens $15,000 and tell them to go out in the marketplace and buy insurance for the year.
Right.
For $1,200 a piece a month, which nobody will sell them.
Right.
And it is a joke, and it was worth laughing about. And Biden won that debate because he just scoffed at the lies that Paul Ryan was telling. Yeah. We need to get into the January 6th hearing.
Yeah, which we just ended. Yeah,
right.
Was on our timeline. It just ended.
Right. We turned off the TVs and got on the recording devices to record this podcast. So
yes, we did. So it's fresh.
Processing to do. But the committee voted unanimously to subpoena Donald Trump.
Right.
In what may or may not be a largely ceremonial act. But it certainly does impact the midterms.
Yes, it does.
If you want to see this committee continue their work, vote Democrat. The other thing that I immediately come away with from this is the Secret Service knowing 10 days out.
Yes, they knew.
That there was going to be an armed assault on the Capitol building, and yet it was left undefended. And Nancy Pelosi saying to, and it wasn't clear to me who she was talking to. Was she talking to someone I think she was talking to someone at the Department of Defense.
She was talking to several people. She talked to the acting attorney general. She talked to the DOD. She was talking to the governor of Maryland.
She talked to the mayor of DC.
And all calm as hell. I mean, she was just like, matter of fact, business as usual, never lost her cool. And
nope.
Got it.
But her line about imagine that this is the Pentagon or the White House. And the implication was, or someplace you care about.
Yeah. Oh,
being under siege. And act accordingly. Start sending people over and then make a plan.
Yeah.
In the middle of that. And as you say, keeping her cool and providing leadership.
Yeah.
While everyone else, including and she did say the president of the United States is the one person who should be doing all of this.
And she said repeatedly on it, because this is footage that we had never seen before.
Right.
The committee had it. This was filmed footage of them in a presumably secure or semi-secure bunker in the Capitol, while they're busting in the windows and they're looking at it on television, and they're running through the hallways, and then they're defecating in the House chamber. She's pretty calmly on the phone talking to all the right people and trying to rally the Army or the National Guard or the police or the Rangers or, Matt Dillon to come get the hell down here right now, because this is happening right now. And Chuck Schumer helpfully shouting things, which is kind of hilarious. But she was clearly in charge. And I want her in charge at that moment, because she really had a clear head, knew her shit, knew who to call. And I think I saw like Dick Durbin in the background on his phone tweeting away, and this little room with like Triscuits and water bottles on the sofas with duct tape on them, where they've been worn over the years. And it really humanized these people that you only ever see on pedestals or giving speeches, how clear and thoughtful and articulate and forceful and considered everything they were doing was, how they just couldn't be rattled. And their main concern, we have to get back to doing the people's business. Right.
We have to get back to the vote that we have to do today.
Right. And she said on 2 or 3 occasions, Donald Trump instigated this. This riot has been instigated by the president of the United States. And she talked to the acting attorney general going, well, could you get somebody up there to tell him to stop it? Because he started it.
Yeah.
So there was a very clear understanding on the part of leaders in Congress who did this and why it was being done, and why there was
someone
no
said someone should call Ivanka. I thought that was also very telling.
Jeez.
Someone in that room said, "Can we get Ivanka on the phone?"
Yeah, yeah, and
it was remarkable.
It was, and everybody knew who was to blame, and everybody knew what was going on, and that's the part that really was new, as you said. The Secret Service and other law enforcement were aware that something like this was coming down the pipe. Well,
they knew people were armed. They knew people were dangerous.
Yep.
One side note: Mike Huckabee was on Fox this week.
Yeah.
Saying, "Well, you can't trust the polls when it comes to the United States Senate. You can't trust the polls,
right?
Because MAGA people are terrified that the FBI is listening in on their phone calls and might be the pollsters and might arrest them."
Sure.
And so it's creating this paranoia on Fox.
Yeah, that's their product.
Which is what that's their stock and trade. But I do think that those insurrectionists who align with the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers and might not have marched to Washington have reason to be concerned that their organizations are now infiltrated.
Oh, yeah.
And that they're being heard, they're being listened to, and they should be.
They should be scared shitless.
Yeah.
And what was also clear from this testimony is that some non-trivial number of FBI agents align with the Proud Boys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Agree with what they're doing. And
not surprising.
you got to start to wonder, okay, I understand that you're, crew cut, Elliot Ness, a small c conservative type organization. But if this is the scary part, the tendrils of this fascist movement reach very deeply into lots of institutions. And if they're not rooted out now and destroyed, they will, next time they come back, all they're doing is testing the fences now. All they're doing is testing the theory. Yeah. So they'll know next time, get rid of everybody who's not loyal day one and put in a whole bunch of stooges and hacks and mopes who will do anything.
Don't wait until you lose the election to replace the attorney general. Yeah.
Do it now, do it now, do it right now. Yeah. And that's of concern. All in all, it was a good sort of coda to the hearings. A lot of it we'd heard before. There was, again, new stuff about this live or this on tape stuff that was going on inside the Capitol. It was so clear, so clearly laid out, and they made very, very clear these are criminal activities. This is the person responsible. He's the one person, and they went through all of his cronies who've pled the fifth.
Yep.
And showed tapes of them pleading the fifth. All these criminals, all these monsters, all these.
And they were
plotters.
pleading the fifth about their conversations with Trump.
Right.
That was always pointing back to Trump.
Yeah.
What did you discuss with the president about this? Plead the fifth. That everything about today pointed to, here's the guy responsible. He knew what he was doing. He wasn't unaware at any time what was going to happen.
Starting with Benny Johnson, I think. Benny Thompson and Zoe Lofgren. They used the word premeditated about 17 times.
Yeah, they did.
Like, he knew this was planned before the election. Here's Steve Bannon talking about what's going to happen if he's not the winner. We'll just declare he is the winner, and then the shit will hit the fan. That'll be great. Roger Stone, same thing.
Yeah,
we'll just say we're the winners. Fuck you, we won. Prove us wrong. And the plan was always to cheat, to rile up a mob and to steal whatever they could lay their hands on, and try by intimidation and brute force. And if that didn't work, we're going to call the attorney generals. We're going to install state officials. We're going to strong arm them. We're going to threaten them with prosecution. It was a mob action. And I mean, a mafia mob action. We're going to use terror, intimidation, bribery, whatever we have to do to break all the rules to make sure Donald Trump stays in office. And Trump knew every fucking bit of it. He was behind all the planning, and he has to go to jail forever. And that's not going to happen. I realize that's not going to happen, but I never thought Alex Jones would be fined $1 billion.
Right.
So miracles do happen. What can I say? Completely unrelated, but sort of related. I am here for Steve Schmidt, who is one of the co-founders of the Lincoln Project, who has taken up as his late life task shredding the Lincoln lads. Calling them some of the most despicable and unethical behavior I have ever seen.
Because of the Showtime documentary.
The Showtime documentary, he's just appalled, shocked and appalled that these horrible, shitty people were doing horrible, shitty things. And it always amazes me that every single Republican suddenly discovers that the group they were with was awful the day they leave. I mean, Michael Steele... racists just showed up the day after I was kicked out of the party.
Right.
All of them, Charlie Sykes, the party was fine until I left, and then they all lost their minds. David Brooks, everything was fine until Donald Trump showed up and spontaneously did everything wrong. And Steve Schmidt, the Lincoln Project was this upstart kind of wild organization until, I look back now and I realize after I left, oh my God, so bad. And I've gotten at least 2, possibly 3, possibly 40 emails from people saying, yep, looks like you were right about the Lincoln lads. And, yeah. Now, on the other hand, I'm not here for Steve Schmidt claiming that before it all went to shit, he and the Lincoln lads were more or less single-handedly responsible for saving American democracy.
Yeah.
They got all these people to the polls, and they got all these kids interested in democracy, and they really got in Trump's brain, man, and they really fucked with him. And really, the fact that the 2020 elections turned out pretty good for Democrats, but not great, pretty much entirely due to us. Like, no, your batting average was shit. All the people you backed lost. But still, in some ineffable way, he still wants to believe that the tens of millions of dollars that credulous liberals gave these assholes so he could buy his, zero whatever.
Sub-Zero fridge.
Sub-Zero fridge and buy a condo and live very comfortably. Somehow all of that was what really made the difference. And all I can say is imagine if the people who'd been getting it right about the right for decades had been given a fraction of the support and money and media coverage and flattering free publicity that they gave away to the Lincoln Lads and to the Bulwark so they could grow their media empires right live on camera at MSNBC in real time, 20 years after it was too late. So I'm not there for that. But yeah, if you want to go kick him in the balls again, Steve, I'll hold your beer while you do it.
So I want to say shame on MSNBC. I know we have listeners that say MSNBC is not your friend. And
yes, we do.
Just be aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from Lawrence O'Donnell, there has been quite an effort on the part of MSNBC this week, really in an ableist way, to try to point out some problem that John Fetterman has with, and it is something that stroke victims apparently have, which is an auditory processing difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
And so John Fetterman has, for his interviews, where he has to be answering questions in a timely manner on the air, he has closed captioning so he can read the question while the person is asking it.
Right.
Which is an auditory assistance like a hearing aid or, anything that someone needs to understand and process language. You would give them that assistance like a teleprompter and an earbud while you're on the news.
Well, yeah.
And all of the people that are poo-pooing, oh, is something kind of wrong with him? Is he capable? Is he healthy enough? Blah, blah, blah. I'll have earpieces and teleprompters and so forth.
And Andrea Mitchell can't get through a whole sentence which is being fed to her via text on camera.
Right.
And she can't complete a goddamn sentence and she's on the air all the time.
Right. And that is her job.
Right.
And so Lawrence O'Donnell, both on Twitter and on his show, said, I can't do my show without an earpiece and a teleprompter to read off what I have to say.
Mm-hmm.
And brought up FDR. FDR elected 4 times, won World War II, created Social Security from a wheelchair.
Yep. Yes, he did.
And all of this concern trolling. It was Chris Matthews. For God's sake, Chris Matthews does not belong on television.
No, at all. And they keep bringing him back. Joe Scarborough
keeps bringing him back.
Hauling his mortal remains out of the grave and bringing him back and putting him on the air so he can be real concerned about John Fetterman. And apparently Chris Matthews used to feign hearing loss so he could not listen to the person in his ear and just blow off anybody who was supposed to be sharing the stage with so he could hog the spotlight.
Yeah, hogging the camera. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you tell me to toss it back to Keith Olbermann.
Yeah. Well, and the whole thing about, all these people go to school to learn how to read off a teleprompter.
Yeah.
That's their whole job. That's all John Fetterman's trying to do.
Yeah.
And speaking of John Fetterman.
Well, no, John Fetterman isn't reading his answers off a teleprompter
he's
they are.
He's
reading the questions off the teleprompter so that he can process what's being asked of him.
Exactly.
While he recovers from a stroke. He's not asking anyone else to think for him.
Right. And if you've ever seen Al Sharpton wearing his Coke bottle glasses, struggling to read off a teleprompter, and just botching it every time, it's, this is not something, these are, presumably professionals at the top of their game who screw this up all the time. No, my comment about John Fetterman was we did our little steeplechase during the hearing. Channel to channel. And local news wasn't touching it at all.
And
ABC,
the
CBS,
regular
NBC,
networks were not covering it.
Not touching it at all. Yeah. PBS was covering it. The cables were covering it. And then I'd go over to Newsbacks for 2 minutes and John Fetterman, the fish rots from the head down.
Fish rots from the head down, John Fetterman.
A whole John Fetterman story. So,
instead of the hearings, they're doing anti-John Fetterman propaganda.
So Chris Matthews, Joe Scarborough, Andrea Mitchell, and Newsmax are all very excited to because it is the establishment people. It's all the folks
as I said on Twitter, you can't have a Democrat be 10 points ahead.
No.
That's just not part of the business model for the horse race coverage that we need
and
to have.
You can't have a Democrat in board shorts and a hoodie.
Right. Winning by 10 points.
You can't have that. That is so, that will upend every crudité tray and every petit four tray.
Green rooms at MSNBC.
There's, oh my God, can you imagine this person? He's 80 feet tall. And he's bald, and he's looks like a biker, and he wears these weird clothes, and
he has tattoos,
Well, and you go back to what's her name, who talked about the Village, Ben Bradley's wife.
Oh yeah,
who castigated the Clintons.
Sally Quinn,
who was furious that the Clintons came to our town, our village, and ruined it with their their Arkansas manners. They came here and they were rude and abrasive. Same thing with Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
Came to town, didn't respect our traditions and mores.
Didn't
of the
serve
village
alcohol
here.
at the White House is what she meant.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Right. That's really what she meant. Yeah.
And was just horrified that these rubes from, elsewhere than here had come to our quaint little village of Washington, D.C. and broken all the social norms. And that's why they hate fucking John Fetterman.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't look like them, doesn't talk like them, and wants to take a lot of their stuff away from them via taxes and spend it on people who work for a living.
Mm-hmm.
And that cannot be allowed.
Yep.
Would you like to do a quick news roundup?
Let's do a quick news roundup.
All right. After you, darling.
The January 6th committee shared new video footage and internal Secret Service emails that show Trump ratcheted up the conflict at the Capitol despite being warned of escalating violence.
Federal Judge Lewis Kaplan rejected Donald Trump's attempts to delay his deposition in a defamation suit by E. Jean Carroll, who claims he raped her in the 1990s. Trump's deposition is now scheduled for October 19th.
That's next week.
Yes, it is.
Conspiracy-mongering monster Alex Jones was ordered to pay nearly $1 billion in damages to the families of 8 victims of the Sandy Hook shooting. This is only one trial of more than one trial
that he's going to lose.
Yep.
According to KFF health tracking poll, 50% of voters say the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade has made them more motivated to vote, which is up 13 points from May.
The Biden administration said that the United States needs to reevaluate its relationship with Saudi Arabia following the decision by the OPEC oil cartel to cut oil production by 2 billion barrels. They were not expecting that.
No, they weren't. This next story caused cheers to break out all over the basement of our home.
The basement of our home.
Joe Biden pardoned anyone convicted of marijuana possession under federal law and urged governors to do the same. Biden also said his administration would review whether marijuana should continue to be listed as a Schedule I drug like heroin and LSD, saying that, quote, makes no sense. Damn right, Joe.
Yeah. Dank Biden. What is it? Dank Brandon?
Dank Brandon strikes again.
Brandon strikes again. The Justice Department asked the Supreme Court to reject Trump's appeal over classified documents seized from Mar-a-Lago again. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Herschel Walker claimed to be full-blood Cherokee. Apparently that claim has been rebutted by his mommy. So he just can't stop lying.
When your mom calls out your lies during a Senate campaign.
Not great. Not great.
Per the Washington Post, the Herschel Walker abortion report doesn't seem to have changed much in terms of the outcome of the election.
Hasn't budged people. Republicans are dug in like ticks and are never going to change until they go off to meet their maker. COVID boosters this fall could prevent about 90,000 U.S. deaths this winter if more people would get their boosters by the end of the year. Get the jab, people. Just go do it.
My only advice from my perspective, we got the COVID booster, the Omicron booster, and the flu shot on the same day, which was fine. I had no ill effects. I was tired the next day, but otherwise fine. But get them in different arms.
Yes. I
got them in the same arm, and I had a real hard spot in my arm for about a week. So I would recommend different arms for the shots. But like I said, got the flu shot, got the COVID shot same day, did fine. Per the Washington Post, a Trump Mar-a-Lago worker told the FBI, about moving Mar-a-Lago boxes on the ex-president's orders.
Uh-oh.
A Trump employee has told federal agents about moving boxes of documents at Mar-a-Lago at the specific direction of the former president. According to people familiar with the investigation who say the witness account, combined with security camera footage, offers key evidence of Donald Trump's behavior as investigators sought the return of classified material.
Yeah, everything is bad.
What does that other podcaster say? Arrest him while you still can.
Arrest him now while you still can. Everything's bad for him. And, he probably going to get away with a lot of it. But this is evidence, not just he stole documents, but that after he said he had returned them all, he had his staff move them again and hide them again in full view of security camera footage, which the FBI now has. And now there's at least one rat, possibly two or three, on Trump property, and Trump has no idea who the informers are. I'm guessing it's literally everyone he knows, ratting him out. And you can only imagine what that's doing to his already paranoid, mush brain sensibility. According to the Rolling Stone, Donald Trump threatened to out confidential sources from the Russia investigation, because that's what mobsters do.
I don't understand that. I don't understand what the deal is there. Did he threaten to go and get information from the FBI director, and out it?
I think it had to do with he knew who the confidential sources were in the Russia investigation and used it as leverage, or tried to use it as leverage to get a better deal, to get the committee off his back. I'm speculating now. This is just a headline, but more about this next week.
And from Wonkette, a Trumper pleads guilty to his own Antifa, BLM, Biden arson. Who could have known? Dennis Mala of Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, made up a real sad story in October 2020 about how some leftist vandals spray painted Biden 2020, BLM, and an Antifa symbol on his garage door before setting fire to his camper. He said this was all because he flew a Donald Trump flag in what was about to become Joe Biden's America.
Yeah.
And he filed a false insurance claim about it.
Yes,
he raised money on GoFundMe in the tens of thousands of dollars. And turns out he had spray painted BLM and Antifa on his own camper. And he pled guilty to doing that. And now he's in trouble.
I'm thinking of repainting the deck, Blue Gal. And if I repaint it with big MAGA rules, Antifa rules, graffiti, do you think we can get an insurance settlement? And then set fire to it after I film it for some reason. Because that's what vandals do.
Just don't be like Nancy Mace. Congresswoman Nancy Mace spray painted her own house too.
Yeah,
and the handwriting matched her handwriting.
Yeah, and
then she had a social media picture of herself with cans of spray paint in her kitchen while she was making a lunch. And she's still in Congress and nobody's asking her about it. So,
And, the part of the story I liked the most was the guy burned down his own garage.
Yeah. His own camper.
His own camper. I'm sorry. His own camper. He set fire to his camper. It reminds me of the young lady who had a D carved in her face.
Oh yeah. The B, the backwards B.
The backwards B for Obama or something. And it turned out
nobody knows. Yeah.
Nobody knows. But she tearfully let the news know that she was attacked by Obama supporters, and they carved her face up. And it turned out, no, she just put on some makeup and did it to herself. And she got famous for about 2 minutes. And then people found out what really happened. And she was even more famous. And it just goes to show you that they will just invent victimhood out of thin air to justify.
But they're so bad at it.
That's the problem. They suck at it. They really do suck at it.
Nancy Mace spray painted "Pass the Pro Act" on her house.
Yeah.
And no one knows where the footage is from her Ring camera. And the vandals did nothing to the bicycle that was parked out by her house.
Which is very suspicious.
Anyway, yeah.
Now, at least on the other end of the spectrum, if you chalk peaceful protests on the sidewalk near Susan Collins home.
Susan
She
Collins
will call
home.
the police
She's
on
going to she's going to call you a terrorist.
She's going to call the cops
And call the
because,
cops.
that's terrifying.
Chalk.
That's really terrifying. Yeah. Anyway, there's no local news today because we just got back in town like 5 minutes ago and we're very tired. And
we voted already.
We did.
And
we voted already.
Junior Dude has voted. We've all voted by mail.
Mm-hmm.
The ballots are here for the other two, the girls, to come when they come back from school on a weekend. They'll be voting.
We were going to hire
a mule. Youngest child keeps asking me, "Is Trump on the ballot?" And I think the next time she asks me, then I'm going to say, "Trump is always on the ballot.
He's always on. He's there.
He's always on the ballot.
He's like Santa Claus. He sees you when you're sleeping.
You have to vote against Trump every time you vote.
That's
okay?
Right.
No matter what, you vote blue, no matter who, because you're voting against Trump. Okay,
and she knows that. She knows that.
She's
know that.
Pulling my leg. Is Trump on the ballot? Yeah. Okay.
Well, and Junior Dude is going to, I think, go, stop sniffing around the libertarian universe because now that Biden is pro-pot, what do libertarians have left
Well,
now?
And there was something going on in Florida. I'm sorry, I don't know all the details, but there was some case that he was really hyped up about.
Yeah.
There was a pot case that the feds were involved in, and he was really upset about it. And I think it was trafficking, but it was marijuana, and he was really upset about it. And I said, well, the FBI has to follow the law as it is, whatever, and you change the law and then the FBI will drop the case. You just have to do it that way. He said, yeah, but Mom, if Biden's FBI is going to do this, I just don't think I can vote for Biden. I'll write somebody else in. I won't vote for Trump or vote for a Republican, but I just can't. And 3 days later, Biden comes out with a speech saying, I just don't understand why marijuana is classified with heroin. This is ridiculous. I'm going to commute sentences, which was amazing. Apparently that's just going to make a huge difference in a lot of lives, and pardon people. And, if that's all you have on your record is pot, I'm going to expunge those records. And I think he did that to win Junior Dude back, don't you?
He did. He got real nervous about Junior Dude, like skipping out and going to Galt's Gulch and learning about libertarianism, which would not be a good match for lots of reasons. But he came skipping on back into the Democratic camp. And,
he was very happy about all of it. Yeah.
Dank Brandon to the rescue again.
Yeah. Hey, each week we post to our Facebook page and website an Internet Kitty sent in by you, the listeners. This week's Internet Kitty is Callie. Her name is Callie, but the vet was quick to point out that she's a tortie, and she has all the attitude of a tortie. She is the house greeter as long as you're not the vet, and she will shower you with attention like she is starved for it, but she is not. Speculation is, and she's new to this household, but she's been around the world for a while. The speculation from the vet is that she's around 13 or 14. So she's a senior kitty.
Yeah.
And we're so grateful that she was sent into us. And of course, Callie eats freshly poured cat food, our fake sponsor. Whether you serve Pet Store Perfection or Dollar Store Dreck, your cat will sit on the kitchen floor and demand that the food they eat is only freshly poured. Freshly poured, freshly poured. Oh, my Lord, it's freshly poured. And you can visit Callie at our Facebook page or website. You can send your Internet Kitty, dog, or other pet to us at our email address, proleftpodcast@gmail.com, or you can also write to both of us. Feel free to write us. We love hearing from you. Be aware that if you write to us at any of our addresses, we reserve the right to read your email or U.S. Postal Service. Go Postal Unions. Letter on the air unless you say otherwise. #FireDeJoy. I do want to thank everyone who wrote in. Those few people wrote in and went, no show last week. We're so worried about you.
It's okay.
And, we thought we had announced it enough. I assure you that if we have to skip a Thursday again, I will make a point to put in some show notes or something on that day so that but this was a surprise party we had to go to. So I couldn't put anything on our podcast that said, we aren't going to be here because we're going someplace, because that would have been a clue to the relative who got surprised. So
and he does pay attention to us.
I did write back to everybody who said, are you guys okay? And said, yes, we're okay.
We're good.
And we did a Tuesday show last week. If you haven't listened to the Tuesday show, it was our first sample of No Fair Remembering stuff. And we're going to be doing that Tuesday show if we get enough Patreon supporters by January. We're hoping to make that a regular thing every week and have 2 shows a week for you. So,
and we'll do a few more between now and then because we're still working.
Yeah, because we want to try this out and see what it's like. Yeah.
Honestly, the feedback was wonderful. It was just
a lot
very
of good
positive
feedback. The music was a little too loud, someone says, so I'll tone that down. And we will play with it and come up with a format that everybody's happy with, hopefully, and do more of them because they're fun. They're fun to do.
Yeah.
Don't forget our gourmet coffee guideline. If you can afford to buy an espresso-based beverage for yourself, buy one for us. This is not charity. This is our job, and we are still in the middle of our Patreon drive, again, to start up the second show every week. Approximately 1% of our listeners support this podcast with a contribution, and you can too. See our website, proleftpod.com, for details. We've got Patreon, the postal address information. Everything's there at proleftpod.com. Please share our show on social media. And if you love this podcast, send us $5 or sign up as a Patreon. It's a great way to let us know that you appreciate a specific episode. And thank you for doing that. Hey, Driftglass, how are the Internet Kitties doing this week?
Well, Blue Gal, now the Internet Kitties are worried about loose moose in Springfield because a moose once bit their sister.
No, really?
That's a deep cut for all of you people out there who understand what I just referred to. Bless your hearts. You're of my tribe.
Let's think about living. Think about living. Let's think about loving. Think about loving. Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the popping and the lovey-dovey. Let's forget about the wine and the crying, the shooting and the dying, and the fellow with a switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life.
Professional Left Podcast is recorded under a Creative Commons license, copyright 2022, DGBG Productions Incorporated.